Teachers at Reddit, what's the funniest answer you've gotten from a student that technically wasn't wrong? Why are you late? The bell went off before I got here. I asked when is a time you have used integrity? He wrote down I wash my hands after going to the bathroom, even if no one is in there. I teach English to Vietnamese kids. I asked what is the population of Vietnam? The kid quickly surveyed the room and said more than 15. This guy is going places. My sweet little 7-year-olds overheard a 5th grade boy say don't be ducking stupid to his friend. They look up at me, eyes wide, and say, ooh, he said stupid. Teaching English to middle schoolers in Korea. Asked, okay, what's another way you can express surprise in English? After going over expressions like, no way, are you serious? Are you kidding me? Kid yells from the very back of the room, what the duck? Phys. Ed teacher here. I always wear shorts teaching. Parent-teacher conferences roll around. Grade 1 student comes up to me with her parents' MR. Famous 1187. I've never seen you wear pants before. I've never responded quicker to a comment before in my life to clear that up. I worked in a special needs class for a year and there was the one kid with a textbook case of Asperger's syndrome. Very bright. Very tough nut to crack. I tried to tell him a corny joke once and he was not having it. Why did the chicken cross the road? He likely had business over there or was compelled by force. Well, okay, easily my favorite memory of that class. I wrote an exam where the question was can you name 3 models of DNA replication? She wrote, no. In a class that deals with electricity, I asked the students to name a good conductor. Leonard Bernstein. Not a teacher but someone told me this. What side of the road do people in France drive on? Miss, they drive on both sides. Not a teacher but a fellow student once answered in the head to the question where was JFK shot? Instead the intended answer of Dallas. In 7th grade on a test the question said why do some people see some technology as positive and others see the same technology as a problem? And a kid simply put, because some people are Amish. College professor, teaching developmental psychology. At the end of the semester, I asked all the students to write down the most interesting or important thing they learned. One wrote, babies are stupid and old people still have a 6. It's not wrong. Kinda covers the lifespan. Name 2 ways to determine the height of a building using a barometer that is exactly 1 meter long. 1. Take the barometer to the top of the building, drop it, and time how long it takes to hit the ground. 2. Find the owner of the building and say, hey, I have this really awesome barometer I'll give you if you tell me how tall your building is. Not the teacher but witness this in class. Sociology prof. Why do you conform? Student. It has always been my goal in life to blend in. Soc prof. No more questions for you. Same kid on the same quiz. Capital Q. Describe the bus ride at the beginning of the chapter. Capital A. It was a bus ride filled with action, but also with emotion. Capital Q. What happens at the end of the story? Capital A. The story ends. Kid's going to be a politician someday. Not a teacher but I work with kids. Trying to delicately explain to a 3-year-old why she should be kind to her mommy. You shouldn't say those mean things to mommy when she's sick. Who looks after you when you are sick and makes you feel better? The doctor, well duck. I've got a story from my fiancee's childhood. They were testing her intelligence or awareness and showed her an image with a TV in a room. The TV was turned on, showing a cartoon, and had a plant on top of it. Q. What's on the television? A plant. Apparently she just kept insisting in utter frustration until the administrator bothered to look at the image and not the answer sheet. The question. More than a man has to get a fox, a chicken, and a sack of corn across a river. He has a rowboat, and it can only carry him and one other thing. If the fox and the chicken are left together, the fox will eat the chicken. If the chicken and the corn are left together, the chicken will eat the corn. How does the man do it? Students answer, let the chicken eat the corn, and let the fox eat the chicken. Then bring the fox over. I teach English in Japan. When teaching my students, I asked what do we say when someone is being too loud. One smartest says shut up forever. More like, Farihiba. I had never said this. No clue where he learned it either. I nearly lost my it. But he wasn't wrong. The correct answer is be quiet, please. Which I told him was more polite. He just grinned as if he knew. But didn't care. Smart kid. I'll miss him when I change jobs. I teach forensic science. We were going to be using iodine to fume fingerprints. Iodine vapor is no joke. So I terrify the students and use only 2 volunteers with goggles and respirators at the chemical hood. But we still all go over the MSDS, PPE, and equipment. I spend maybe 5 minutes talking about everything in the chemical hood to my class of 30, towards the end. So, someone tell me, what is a hood? Hand shoots up. Yes, student. It's like the place where you grow up. I fassipum. The class laughs, and I'm unable to pivot his answer in the moment. He's on the autism spectrum and wasn't trying to be funny. Name something living. Fox. Name something non-living. Fox poop. Elementary school kid saw the answer key. He swore he came up with. Answers may vary, all on his own. When I used to teach anatomy, Anthony, name this bone. UHH femur. Is it a left femur or a right femur? Yeah. On a 3rd grade Charlotte's Web quiz, give 2 pieces of evidence that support this statement. Charlotte was a good friend to Wilbur. She comforted him and she didn't let him become pork. Not a teacher, but something my brother answered for homework. My brother was in year 1, and his homework was to draw a balloon blown up. He drew a picture with lots of squiggly shapes spread out across the paper. He took it as the balloon blown up, like a bomb, so he drew the leftovers of an exploded balloon. His teacher loved it and gave him full marks. Not a teacher but a witness. In high school history class the teacher asked what was the peace treaty that ended World War II. This was a trick question because there wasn't a single treaty that ended the war. This one kid blurted out the Manhattan Project. The teacher laughed so hard he went and got the other history teacher and had the kid tell him the answer too. Okay, so this story totally doesn't translate to English, but I will give it a shot anyway. In German there is this little drawing game called Das Haus vom Nikolaus consisting of drawing a house without lifting the pen or drawing the same line twice. Well, the act of drawing something without lifting your pen is called an Zugzeichnen, which literally translates to drawing in a train. So yes, one kid actually drew a house in a train. Edit. Spelling. Name a compound word. Asphalt. I co-teach a class and do a lot of the grading. Kids will write I love teacher A and I'm like ha ha ha, this is teacher B. Nice try. ESL teacher. I had my students do an activity where they had to give directions based off of a map and situations I had chosen. The final question was more complex, and one of my students wrote, way too difficult. Take a cab. I've taught English in Korea and Japan, and while maybe not that funny, one student who wanted to say something like afterwards or in the end wrote the after was here. I stopped for a moment and just stared off into space after reading that. Teaching grade 5. Students were fooling around during group work, so I said sarcastically, "Do I need to stand here and watch you do your work?" To which the student responded even more sarcastically, "Well, you don't have to stand. You can grab the chair and sit." There was a buddy of mine in college, capital J, who was legendary for his witty responses in class. 1. We were training to be RAs and the residential life person asked, "What are some things that as an RA you shouldn't do in your dorm room?" People were saying stuff like drinking, etc. J raises his hand, gets called on, says, "Practicing medicine without a license." The trainer was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that's true." 2. Same guy was in a film class. Teacher asks, "What technique defined the scene we just watched?" J raises his hand, gets called on, says, "Long, awkward silences." Teacher, "Could you give an example?" J. I used to teach preschool. One time, when we were eating lunch, one little girl called another kid in the class stupid. A third preschooler, who was a stickler for the rules and a bit of a tattletale, overheard and began admonishing the name caller. "Don't call people stupid," she exclaimed. "Stupid is a bad word, and we don't say bad words." A fourth child, Henry, overheard this announcement. Henry was always getting into trouble. The smart ones are troublemakers at that age. He was my favorite student. He looked directly at me, raised one eyebrow and said, "Oh yeah? Itch and duck are bad words too. We don't say those either." I died. This is intentional, but I teach a foreign language, and so when I introduce the word for I don't know, I call on a student who typically gets answers wrong and ask them to translate the word as if he should know it. When the student inevitably responds, "I don't know," I tell them they're right, and the look on their face is always priceless. My godfather is a lobster fisherman, and all of the kids in the family would go out on the boat with him from time to time. There was a running joke with my uncle, dad and godfather. They would get a kid to bait a trap, then applaud them for being a master baiter. My cousin went back to school after summer vacation, and when the teacher asked what she did that summer, she proudly stated, "I became a master baiter." Not a teacher, but I remember something I did when I was in grade 2. The student teacher took us into a private room one by one for eye exams. I've never taken an eye exam before, and it wasn't really explained to me what was happening. I was just sat down and asked to read the first line of the chart, then the second, then the third. By the time it came to the fourth line, I was like, "It's too small for me to read. 1 minute please." Then I got up, walked over to the board and started reading the letters. Apparently that's not how you do eye exams.